Monique, I want to say thank you to you, because without this program, well, we wouldn't all be here on a call to discover our sacred gifts. So thank you everybody for joining us. My name is Margene Holden. I am going to be facilitating this, this Q&A with Monique MacDonald. And for those of you who don't know me, I am a trainer, I'm an author. I took sacred gifts with Monique years and years and years ago. And the reason I took it was because at that moment in time, in I think 2007, 2008, 10 years ago, I felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders. And I knew I needed something that was going to help me move from feeling like I had to do everything and be that superwoman that did everything and anything that actually didn't feel good. And when I met Monique, and she was just such a huge, huge supporter of my training at that particular time, and all through the last 10 years that I have known her. And it's just been fantastic to get to participate in Discover Your Sacred Gifts, to become certified in Discover Your Sacred Gifts, and to be able to help get this out there to the world. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Monique. Now, when I first met Monique, I thought, oh, I was kind of intimidated by her, because she was this incredibly powerful, wise woman that had all of this information. And it appeared to me that there was a little bit of like seriousness to her. And then I spent some time with her at a camp and saw the interaction between her and her sister and her friends and some of the other crew. And I thought, oh my gosh, she's like my sister. It's like the kind of relationship I have with my sister and my siblings. And I thought, we're going to be great friends, you know, because the sheer joy that ensued after that was just absolutely incredible. But in 2008, with 31 years of hospital experience as a registered nurse, she decided that it was time to completely reinvent her life. 31 years as a nurse, reinventing herself. And she followed through on an inspired thought, and she created the life-changing program called Discover Your Sacred Gifts, which has found its way digitally into more than 20 countries around the world. I mean, it's just absolutely growing like crazy. So it's really, really wonderful to be able to be part of that. Monique is considered an expert on the topic of purpose and gifts, and she has helped thousands of people change their lives by learning and applying her unique Feel on Purpose formula. Okay, and she calls herself, and I love how she does this, she calls herself a shift disturber. A shift disturber, okay? Because she will come in and kind of disturb the field and could get you to shift, and it'll feel good. It'll totally feel good. She's got a mentoring and training style that's direct, practical, funny, and no nonsense. And based on demand, Monique went on to create a certification training for coaches, which I participated in, who also wanted to use her life-changing process with their own clients. And I love using this system for my clients because it helps me understand them and some of the frustrations that they actually go through, whether it's with their relationships or in their business. So it helps me have that really strong foundation of what their gifts are, so that I can help them move through whatever blocks or whatever breakthroughs they need to have. She's also duplicated herself as a trainer. I love that she is saying this, to do the live event, and she's training me, which is why I'm so super excited and humbled and absolutely honored that she has decided to allow me to train this and be trained to lead the live event, because up to now, Monique's been the only one out there training the live 2-day event. And I think she's excited as well. So with no further comment necessary, but we'll get into a little bit more of who you are, Monique. Everybody welcome the fabulous Monique MacDonald, the creator of Discovering Your Sacred Gifts.
Hey, thanks, Margine. Yeah, I'm all about fun. I actually have, it's all vodka in here, right?
Yeah. Just a little afternoon.
Yeah, delight. Yeah.
Delight.
Oh, it's great to be here, and thank you for that. And this is super exciting for me. I posted it in Facebook today. I actually put a post that said, today I've got this big first happening, and then I got all these crazy comments underneath, people guessing what it was. But you know what? This big first for me is I've done a lot of interviews, but having you interview me, which is so cool because you are one of our guides, but now you're also stepping up to be one of our, well, not one of, you are the only other partner other than me in the Discover Your Sacred Gifts program. So it's a big first. It is a big first for me. It's a big first for us. And I'm just so grateful to Kathleen and behind the scenes to RJ and Annette and Melanie and all these people that, have been just supporting us over the years and wanting to be there. Helping me grow this and then stepping up, all of you guys just stepping up and wanting to do what you can to help get this message out there. So Kathleen, thank you. Mwah. You're awesome to be doing this, and RJ, thank you, and Annette for organizing all of this with Margine and I, and we just get to show up and play, and how fun is that, right?
It's so fun and it's so exciting. And if there's anything else, Monique, that you want to say or convey about who you are before we jump into the Q&A, go for it. Like, is there anything else that I haven't said that you want them to absolutely know about you before we move forward?
Well, I want to acknowledge everybody that's on the call listening, of course, and I caught some of the names at the beginning, but once we open up the lines, we'll get to know each other better. What else would I say? I'd say I didn't sign up for this. Like this was not my plan in my life at all. I did not go looking for this specifically. It really found me and it got a hold of me. And what I mean by that is where I was in my life when this whole idea of creating the Discover Your Sacred Gifts program came in. I was working as a nurse, and I was actually having a really, really difficult day looking after a young burn patient, and it was challenging for me. And I had a quick break, to go down to the cafeteria and grab a coffee. And while I was at the elevator, I just was really overcome with this moment of, what is this all about? Like, is this really my life? And I felt privileged to be a nurse for all the years I had been. And, I was really good at it, but there was this feeling like there was more potential in me and it wasn't being met in the place I was. So that moment in time for me, that was in about 2002 or 3. That was really a moment in time where it was my first conscious contact, I would say, with putting something out to the universe. Like, I was born and raised Catholic, went to church every Sunday, didn't really have any kind of connection going on internally. But in that moment, it was just like this big, okay, like, what is life about? And, how am I going to be happy working with burn people? And, it's like every day my life was filled with trauma and critical care patients. And it was just like really exhausting. And anyway, so that moment in time where I put that out there, I feel like I opened up a portal. That's the best way I could say it. It seems like it opened up some kind of portal for everything in my life to change. And when I mean everything, I mean everything. So I quit nursing back then. I went back to it later for a short period of time. I went through divorce with my husband. I went from living in a 5,600 square foot magnificent home to renting a bedroom in somebody's house. Like, everything in my life really went through a huge change. And it like I say, it was as if a portal opened up. And that's when this idea to create the program came in. So it was kind of like my whole life got turned, inside out. And everything changed for me. And so I don't know, some of you may have experienced this, Margine, I know you have, where the very thing you're doing now is not what you would have imagined you'd be doing. And now I can't think of anything I would rather be doing than to be a catalyst for the positive transformation of people's lives, right? But I was doing amazing work as a nurse, and I felt on purpose for a long time in nursing. And we'll talk about that today, right?
Yeah.
When you're feeling on purpose and when you're not, and when to know when to change. And so I'm just really blessed that things happened the way they did, but I did not plan for this. This wasn't what I was looking for, but it's the best it could be.
Right. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, because I know that, like for me, there, same thing. I wasn't looking for training. I didn't have any idea what being on stage training looked like. And then it was just sort of like one day, shoo, here it is. And everything changed. Like everything changed, because my background is in the film industry. So, you know, even though I still do some of that now and I get back into it and I'm in it, but at that time it was just like, nope, you're not doing that anymore. And it was all I knew. It was all I knew for over 20 years. And I was like, okay, now what? You know? And so this kind of was part of that unfolding of, you know, really getting into my gifts and understanding my gifts. So with that, we're going to jump right in. And, you know, we know now why sacred gifts came to be. But we have some questions that people submitted earlier in the week. So I'm just going to start with the list of questions that came through. And the first one is, what are sacred gifts? Like, what are they?
That's a good question.
Right.
That's a really great place to start. Okay, so sacred gifts are a name that I have given to abilities that we have within us that we can't explain how it is that we can do certain things very well and sometimes extraordinarily well. And those abilities are often overlooked by us because to us it is so natural to be the way we are that it may seem like no big deal, but to other people who don't have those gifts, it is a big deal. So the name sacred gifts is, I use the term sacred gifts because the sacredness that I see in it is coming from a place of, once people know what their gifts are, this naturally happens. People start to have a tremendous sense of reverence and honor and privilege around them that they may not have had before. Now, there are some of you that may be operating in your gifts already, and you already have that feeling of tremendous sense and privilege that you have this ability. But for a lot of people, they don't realize it. And some people even see some of their gifts as kind of these annoying things going on in their lives that they don't understand. And then once they have the understanding, you know, they get this sense of reverence. And let me give you an example of that, Margine, if I can. One of the gifts, there's 24 different gifts that we teach on, but one of them is a gift that allows you, through your presence alone, like just through your presence alone, for people to open up and talk to you and share things with you. And it can be things that are profoundly personal and confident. And if you don't understand this, a couple of things can happen. And one of them is, I've had people say to me, like, is there something written on my forehead that says, you know, talk to me? Or their spouses or friends will say, what is wrong with you that everybody tells you all their stuff, right? And so if you don't understand it, and if your personality is really private and you're kind of a private introverted person and people are opening up and talking to you on airplanes and telling you about their divorce and telling you about their sex life, and you're thinking, oh my God, like, what's wrong with me? That can be an example of where somebody who doesn't understand the sacredness of what's going on in that moment can actually feel confused or even annoyed, right, by having this innate ability that they didn't train in it, they didn't go to school for it, it's not explained through your DNA, your parents may or may not have the same gift, could happen, you know, that they just can't explain. There's a mysterious aspect to this, which is so lovely, right, that we can just do these things that other people may not be able to do. So that's kind of what sacred gifts are. What do you want to add to that, Margine?
Great. I don't know as though I'd add anything to that, but I love how you say that, you know, if you have this particular gift, that it's like there's a, you know, a stamp on your forehead. and how they're so, they just come to us naturally, and can be quite, sometimes can be annoying, right? Because I've experienced that as well. It's like, I have that particular gift, and even teaching it and being trained to take people through this process, I forget that I have that gift. And I sit there and I go, why is this person talking to me? Why are they telling me this stuff? I don't want to know this stuff. Sometimes it's just stuff you don't want to know, right? And so it's fascinating to even, where it's such a big conversation in my life, to constantly remind myself, oh, it's the gift. You don't have to do anything with the information. It's like, I don't have to turn around and try to solve anything. Just be there and let it sort of like kind of run through me, as opposed to, going, oh, I gotta hurry up and I gotta fix whatever's happening.
Yeah, exactly. So that was why I called them sacred gifts. Now, preceding that, I want to be really clear. I did not create the idea that we have gifts within us. It's not like that was my idea. That's always been known throughout all of humanity, so there's been the gift taught mostly in the context of religion. And that was kind of my first introduction to it, was in a religious context. Then I became really things that I really did was I took like an ancient teaching that's been around for a long time, and really felt it was my job to take it and make it practical and make it applicable in our lives, in our jobs, in our businesses, in our relationships. So the idea of gifts is, I just want to be really clear on that, is something that has always been out there. There's always been evidence. My goodness, you travel and you go back, and we're going to be going to Italy next year with our Sacred Gifts group, right? So you go to Italy and we're going to witness some of the most remarkably beautiful elements of craftsmanship and all of those things. Like, there's been evidence of people expressing themselves through their gifts forever, right? So it's not a new concept, but I'm teaching it in a new way.
Fabulous. Yeah, that makes complete sense. There's a little bit of cutout, and I'm not sure why that's happening, but great. So thank you for that. And the next question is, does everybody have sacred gifts?
It's a great question. So my experience in having taught this now for nearly 15 years and having worked with thousands of people is that I have yet to meet anybody in my workshops or clients that I've worked with directly one-on-one, or people and what I can tell your listeners, to our listeners, is that you can be sure that you have more than one, is what I can tell you. And also, a really wonderful, freeing thing to know about sacred gifts is you don't have them all. And when you really come to understand that you don't have them all, and you can celebrate that, it is just a wonderful thing. It's so freeing to find out when they understand why it is that they can't relate to certain people the way they are or the way they behave, and then they come to understand that they just don't necessarily have that gift. And it's very freeing. It takes the burden off of their shoulders. So the process that people are going to go through under your guidance in the workshop is going to be to eliminate as many of them as possible. That's the best way to discover which ones of the 24 you have, right? Is to eliminate as quickly as possible, as many of them as you can out of the 24, so that you're going to be left with a small, beautiful little collection of the ones that you can totally relate to, that you can see evidence of in your life or looking back over your life. And then there's also going to be some that are going to be, you're not sure. It's going to be, you know what, I don't know. Like some of it I can relate to, some of it I can't relate to. I'm not sure if it's a gift or not. So that's really the process. But yes, everybody that I have worked with, yes, of course we see evidence of there being gifts. Now, does that mean everybody can or will express and use their gifts in their life? Absolutely not. Actually, there's evidence that shows clearly that most people go through life without expressing, having the opportunity of really feeling on purpose, using their gifts. And that can happen for a couple of reasons. That can be because they don't feel confident in it. They don't believe it's possible. They talk themselves out of it. So let's say somebody who has a natural artistic ability, and they're in high school and they think, oh, you know, oh gosh, when I finish high school, I would love to go to college and I want to become a fashion designer. And then they start hearing what their friends are going to do. And they're like, oh, you know, or their friends are like, well, how are you going to make money doing that? Where are you going to go to do that? You know, and then they talk to their parents, and their parents are like, well, dear, that sounds more like a fun hobby. You know, maybe you should consider being an accountant, because I was an accountant and I loved it. And, you know, and parents lovingly end up imposing their gifts on their kids, thinking, you know, what they love doing, their kids are going to love, right? So there's reasons why we suppress the gifts in ourselves and we don't allow them to be expressed. And then there's also the possibility that other people will have influence on us and squelch certain gifts that we have and encourage us not to move in that direction. And then there's also the possibility that people simply don't have the opportunity or take the risk when they're asked to do something, that they may in fact have that gift that's needed, and the person may see it in them and is asking them, come on, you'd be great at this, why don't you do this? They're like, oh, no, I couldn't do that. And in fact, it's their own lack of self-confidence, or they've never had the experience.
Right.
So, you know, one thing that's really important to understand about sacred gifts, it's an intellectual process. When you're going to be guiding them through the workshop, or when they're working with one of our guides one-on-one, it seems like an intellectual process to start with. It's like, oh, they're just hungry to know which ones do I have, which ones don't I have. But the only way to prove that you have certain gifts is by the evidence of them being out there in the world.
Right.
It is not what you think you have that determines a gift. It's the evidence of the gift being expressed out there in the world for the benefit of others. That is how we really can say, yes, that's a sacred gift. Not because I think I have it, but because I'm out there and I'm willing to take a risk, and I'm willing to put myself out there, and I'm willing to give it a shot, and I'm willing to do something I've never done before, or something my heart is guiding me to do that my mind can't even explain why I'd want to do that, and actually do it, right? And then it's the evidence of it in the end that shows us that, yes, there's an indication of a gift.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good distinction. And I love that, Monique, because there was a point in time, just so that everybody has this understanding of how they grow. There was a point in time where I was training, and I was on stage, but once I started training in another country, a completely different gift showed up. And it didn't show up as being something that was even on the radar when I actually first went through the course. And then after a couple of years of being overseas and teaching, I had a conversation with Monique and said, hey, so how come it is that this is showing up now? And she said, well, because you were never in the situation to have it show up. It was what Monique describes as being dormant. Just like she was talking about, some people will go their entire lives without activating the gifts because of, outside influence, stuff that our parents have said, stuff that our teachers have said, stuff that, that we've picked up saying, oh, no, I could never do that. And it's really clear to me now that, oh, it was something that was dormant in myself. And being in the situation, now it shows up, and I'll turn around and I'm more likely to turn towards that gift for a lot of different things than not.
Right. And are you referring to the gift of cultural integration?
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I mean, that's kind of a neat gift. I mean, those, well, they're all neat gifts, but there are 4 gifts that we put in a category of what we call lifestyle gifts. And they're gifts that allow you to be able to express some of your other sacred gifts through a particular lifestyle. And not everybody has lifestyle gifts, but the one that Margine is referring to is the gift of cultural integration. So Margine is given an opportunity to take the training she's doing on stage for the company she's working for and to go off to Malaysia, Singapore. Name some of the other places, Margine.
I've been to Spain, Italy, Japan, Taiwan. I'm going to India. I have been in the UK. I've been in, where else have I been? Australia. Canada. But yeah, I've just been all over the world.
Yeah. And so Margine's telling me about this, and I'm saying I remember when she came back from her first training in, I don't know, Malaysia. And I'm like, well, how do you do that? People, if they don't speak English, and Margine's explained to me, oh, they've all got, headsets on and there's interpreters in the back that are talking. And I'm thinking, oh my God, that would be like a fate worse than death for me. Like I'm thinking, what a nightmare. And what I came to realize is I absolutely do not have a gift of cultural integration. So I'm really happy doing my workshop. Yeah, as long as everybody speaks English and they know what I'm doing. Margine's like, oh, whatever, they'll figure it out and we'll find some other way. And the people love her. She goes into these cultures and they love her, and she gets right in there and, gets in with them and is comfortable, and they're accepting of her. And I'm somebody who, I love to travel, and I've traveled to many places in the world, and I organize trips for our Sacred Gifts students. I don't have a gift of cultural integration. Fraser and I went to Mexico in March, and Fraser he just gets in there, he'll try on some words and he'll try and figure out ways, and I'm kind of hiding behind him. I'm the kind of tourist that's happy being in the bus, looking out the window, listening to a guide tell him about a culture, right? I'm not a comfortable traveler, but isn't it amazing? So you get an opportunity to go because you had that gift in you that you didn't know. It's what caused you to say yes, right? So you said yes, whereas if I was in the same situation, I would have said, I don't think so. Or I might have tried it once and would have been like, okay, that was too weird. Put me where everybody speaks English. And we all know what we're doing and drive on the same side of the road. So, when the gifts are in us and when people understand they function as a GPS and an internal GPS, right? So when we pay attention to that, that's where, when an opportunity presents itself, like it did to you, this internal GPS guides you to say yes. Whereas with me, it'd be like, I don't think so. And, so you say yes, and then you take the risk, and you're willing to go and give it a shot. And then that's where you can have the experience of, wow, that was awesome. I loved it. Where else can I go? What else can I do? Put me in front of more people.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, and so they really do function as an internal GPS system, and they guide us. And then it's our minds, often our egoic minds, that talk us out of it or try and stop us from taking chances. Now, that's true of some of the gifts. It isn't true of all of the gifts. Some of these gifts are so well known to us and so practical that we don't typically say no to them. So an example of that might be, let's say, a gift of knowledge. A gift of knowledge will drive you to want to learn. You're hungry to learn. You love to learn. You've got books piled all over your house, by your bed. You've got those lit up screen things that you can read off of, what a Kindle type of thing. You read the cereal, you're reading the side of the cereal box when you're eating breakfast just because it's interesting to know what is in it and whatever, right? And you're just always hungry to learn. Most people don't say no to that. It's not like, oh, I'm dying to read a book. Oh, I'm not going to let myself read a book. My mother taught me not to read a book. I mean, there are certain gifts that we just naturally fall into.
Right.
And we don't even question it, right? We just go with it. So out of the 24 gifts, a lot of them are like that. And those are the ones that often people don't recognize as being gifts, because to them it's like, well, who doesn't love to read? Who doesn't love to learn? But,
Right.
you know, my daughter, you know her, she would say, me, I don't want to be reading about whatever. And I'm not driven to, you know, be constantly learning and compelled to share information that I've learned or anything else. But people with the gift of knowledge, they just go with it. Now, somebody who doesn't understand the gift of knowledge and feels inside of them driven to become a scientist, right? Like they're just like, they want to be a scientist and they want to do research and they want to spend their life immersed in learning and science and research. That's where the mind might start to go, well, who are you? What makes you think you can do that? Well, how would I make money doing that? My mom and dad don't think that's a good idea. Oh my gosh, I'd have to go to university for many years, right? So the gifts are there driving us, but for us to really fully step into their power, it requires this letting go and surrendering and allowing ourselves to go with it.
Right. That's awesome. We do have a couple of questions. Kathleen, you've got some great questions, and Sarah just popped a question in. We are going to get to them. I'm going to have Monique answer this next one first, and then we'll start going into those questions that are in the chat window. And the next question is what makes sacred gifts different from something like Myers-Briggs or sales dogs or a labeling system that can help you find out who you are? How are they different?
Right. Okay. Great question. Super great question. So the easiest way, and you're going to spend, you know, when you're doing the workshop, you're going to be spending a chunk of time on this. So it'll really get clear to those of you that attend. You're really going to get a sense of this. But basically what we look at is our sacred gifts are a part of our beingness. And we as humans let me do it this way. We're human beings, right? Let's say this is us as a holistic human being. And then within us, we have this part of us that's just our beingness. And our sacred gifts are part of our beingness, not part of our humanness. And most of the Myers-Briggs, strength finders, a lot of those things are looking at your humanness, your personality, your penchant towards things, your, you know, your everything, even your upbringing, your skill set, your talents. You might even have natural talents, which is part of your humanness. You might be talented at juggling. You might be naturally athletic. You know, and that doesn't necessarily reflect these gifts we have within our beingness. So I have seen a few of the assessments and tools that are out there that they glimpse some aspects of sacred gift, and sometimes they mix it up with personality stuff. But man, I am telling you, when you go through this process and this program and you come to really understand the difference between a sacred gift that's part of your beingness versus all the stuff that makes up our humanness, you can then separate the two. And the power in that is understanding that in your personality, you can be, and in your humanness, you can be a hot mess, and be powerfully effective when you have the opportunity to be in one of your gifts, right? So if we're looking at just our humanness, what our strengths are, what our skills are, where that leads us to is things that we are really good at. That doesn't mean you love them. And that doesn't mean it makes you feel on purpose. And it doesn't mean that it makes you feel fulfilled. And it doesn't mean that it makes you feel satisfied. It just labels you and says, oh, you're really good at this. Well, that's great. You know, does that mean I have to keep doing something I'm good at, but that sucks the life out of me? Right? So with sacred gifts, what we're looking for is a sense of how you feel when you're doing it. And when you feel on purpose, when you feel satisfied, when you feel there's meaning to it, when you know what you're doing is benefiting, you know who it is you're benefiting and what you're doing, that's where you can really start moving in that direction of feeling on purpose. Does that help, Kathleen?
Yeah, I'm gonna unmute you, Kathleen. Yeah, does that help?
Thanks for letting me join in the convo.
Yes.
And before I answer that, I want to really thank everyone for being here.
Yeah.
Because I know I asked everybody and everyone that's listening or watching, you know, I haven't taken this course. I've just been so blessed to be with Monique and Margine on separate occasions. And so I kind of feel like I have this, I've been given this gift of talking with you over and over again. And so I've kind of bypassed some portions. And as I'm listening to you, I'm really excited because you just touched on something that I tell people with regard to what I do. For many, many years, many of you know, I was a chef for 21 years in the yachting industry. And you just unmuted me as I was like, I want to share. Because what you just said speaks volumes for what I do currently. I did not come to become a massage therapist out of like, hey, I want to do that someday. I was a chef, and because of circumstance in our family, I decided to leave that behind. And I was really, really good at it, but it never felt like it was me. It never felt like it came from a deeper source. And when you said earlier you said something about gifts being for the greater good, or I'm going to paraphrase because I didn't write it down, for being for other people. As a massage therapist, I just had this conversation this afternoon. I know without a shadow of a doubt that I am living in a place of purpose. And that, like you said, it came happenstance. But now that I'm in it, I know I have to keep going. And having learned a few things about my other gifts, I'm looking forward to that integration that we haven't really touched on, but that was one of my questions about how they integrate. You don't do you not kind of rise to one gift and then another gift, or do they get integrated in your life? Or does that expand your life, or can you expand on that?
Yeah, super. Yeah, very, very great question. And you're giving really excellent examples, Kathleen. So the gifts that we have, we're born with them, and we're born with a collection of them, and not all of them are activated all the time in our lives, right? So that's something really important to know. It may happen where 2 or 3 or 4 gifts that somebody has are all activated at one time, but it may not happen that way. There are no absolutes in this. That's the thing that has to allow us to drop into the mystery and the subtlety and the deliciousness of this. There are no absolutes. However, what I've seen is that often people will find themselves moving in a direction of a gift and doing something that allows them to use one or more of their gifts. So for example, culinary arts, and under the category of what we call the gift of craftsmanship, and you're serving people, you're looking after them. I believe, Kathleen, one of your gifts from years ago was service. You show up, you do what needs to be done. If you walk in a room and people are setting up chairs, you're going to help set up chairs. You don't need to call a meeting to find out if they need your help. You're just like, I'm going to set up chairs, right? So you've got a gift of service and craftsmanship, and what's meaningful to you is being able to provide and create, wonderful meals for people, and you're doing that for many years. And then the meaningfulness out of it starts to go. The gift that was behind it, or the gifts that were behind it, do not leave you. They may go dormant, okay? They may go dormant. But the meaningfulness of what you're doing, if it's not there, that's where it starts to stir, and it's like, what is it? And then whatever the process was that you ended up in a massage therapy, now we're looking at certainly a gift of healing could be present, right? So now we're moving into the healing arts, a sacred gift of healing, where using your hands and actually connecting with somebody's body and feeling the heat move through your hands and being able to move energy through that, and whatever way it is that it manifests for you. And there are hundreds of ways that a gift of healing can manifest, and hundreds of modalities through which a gift of healing can operate. So now, in whatever way you end up doing this, and that feeling of, wow, now this feels more meaningful to me doing this, okay, you didn't go looking for it. But it doesn't mean what you were doing before was not meaningful, and it does not mean what you were doing before was not your purpose at the time. And that's why the feel on purpose formula that you'll learn in the workshop is so powerful, because when you understand, it is not just about knowing your gifts. It's knowing your gifts and applying them to something that is meaningful to you and of benefit to others. All right, that's when we start moving in the direction of being able to sense that feeling of purpose. So that means, and there's other elements to the formula that we don't need to get in now that you guys will learn though, but that means that it can change over time. There is no one purpose. There is no spending your time. All of a sudden, I'm 45 years old and I decide, oh, I need to discover my purpose. Like, what the hell does that mean? Does that mean everything you did till now had no purpose? Like, no, come on. You know, if you're a mom, that has purpose. If you've been a good sister, there's purpose to that. If, you know, everything we do can have a sense of purpose. But when it no longer feels on purpose, when it no longer feels meaningful, when it no longer is driving you, when it no longer makes you leap out of bed anymore, that's when you go silent and quiet, and then you go into that phase of, okay, what else could I do? What could I do? You allow things to show up. Oh my gosh, I didn't go looking for this, but look what came. Then it is willing to do what Kathleen did, which is be willing to take the risk of moving from culinary chef on yachts and writing a book. I've read your book. I loved your book. To moving in the direction of being a massage therapist. And then after taking the risk and doing it, dropping into that, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And it doesn't mean Kathleen's going to be a massage therapist forever. It means right now she feels on purpose doing it. And it may lead her to another modality of healing. It might lead her to something else, and she'll find herself 2 years from now doing something different where she feels on purpose. The goal is to notice when we feel on purpose and when we don't feel on purpose. And when we don't, to know the formula and to know how to change and to understand the other gifts that you have, or to know the difference between, it's not that the gift is not the gift I need right now, it's that I'm not using my gift in a way that is meaningful to me. And often people think, oh, I don't want to use that gift anymore. But sometimes when they shift to using the same gift in a way that's more meaningful, or that they are benefiting somebody that really matters to them and they know who's benefiting from what they're doing and they can feel that benefit. Or another aspect of the formula is being in the right vehicle. They shift from a job to being self-employed maybe, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, now I feel more on purpose. I'm in control of my time, right? So yeah, beautiful examples.
Well, it's very funny that as you're talking, you got to the core of my gift, as opposed to, even while you were just speaking, I never put being a chef into my core gift of craftsmanship. And then you look at, I wrote a book that's craftsmanship. That's, all of a sudden it goes, oh, I get it. That was just it's how it manifested at that period of time in my life. It doesn't mean that I don't have other avenues to use. So it's not about my job or my career. It's more about focusing on what the gift is and how it feels.
Right.
I'm looking up here. I'm sorry if I'm going to jump in, Margine, because I think it goes with this. Someone asked the question, if a person refuses to use their gift, can it harm or suppress their personal growth or create conflict with inside? That might be a good question for right now. I don't know.
Well, yes to all of it. Yes to everything. So remember, there are no absolutes. So if a person refuses to use the gift that they have within them, typically that will happen because they either don't know them or they don't understand them. Once somebody really understands why they have the gifts within them and what it brings to them, then it's typically not where somebody will say no to it or refuse to use it. They might. So will that suppress their personal growth or create conflict? You know what? If you have a gift within you that's gnawing at you from the inside and is just wanting to get out, and you keep pushing it down, it creates cranky people that don't want to be with, miserable people who spend all of their time blaming everything outside of themselves for their lack of happiness, when the very thing that may make them happy is chewing at them from the inside, but they're afraid to do it, right? It's afraid. It's fear is always what stands. Change stands in their way. Fear stands in their way. What will people think stands in their way. How am I going to make money stands in their way. All these things is just like a never-ending list. So does that affect your personal growth? You can be a hot mess and be super powerful in your gifts. So personal growth is part of your humanness. Sacred gifts is part of your beingness. There are people who never spent one moment thinking about their personal growth and are highly effective in their gifts. Doesn't mean that they're really super happy, right? Because there's conflict between the two. So the goal is to grow the container. The container is your humanness. Work on the container. I'm a huge fan of personal development. Margine is the queen of frickin' personal development training, right? So, I mean, it's like the container, our humanness, yes, and then the content, the beauty we put within it, then we look at things like sacred gifts. But yeah, you can not work on your personal growth and your gifts may still be expressed, but to become an integrated whole being where you get to enjoy all the benefits of being in your gifts and working on your personal development, it just creates really happy people who love their lives and get up and can say, I love my life. I love my life. Somebody who has not worked on their personal development typically is not going to be really able to say that. Somebody who's not using their gifts typically isn't going to be able to really feel that. So it's a combination of both, absolutely. But they don't have to be always at the same time. It just makes the journey more comfortable, because when you work on your container and your personal growth and you break through fears, you're more able to take the risks.
So I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. But as people take the workshop and they learn what their sacred gifts are, do they also then get to learn, oh, I didn't think I was using this, but here it is. Like, one of my sacred gifts is extraordinary trust, or I wouldn't have put the call together. Yeah,
basically.
What are you going to call it? And so this is an interesting gift, because I didn't know that was a thing. I just thought everybody felt the way I do about how things roll out in life, and that no matter what it looks like, it's going to work. And so I didn't know I was in my gift until challenged with other people not seeing that, when I started to go like, hey, that person doesn't think the same way I do about how it all comes together. You know what I mean? So I even forgot where I was going with this, because that extraordinary trust thing, I'm assuming we're going in the right direction. Can somebody, there's lots of moms, I know there are some moms on the call, where sometimes in your life, you utilize certain gifts kind of, even though you might know you have some, without knowing it, you're kind of putting them aside or not fitting them in. And how does somebody balance that? How does somebody say, does this kind of give you an opportunity to learn how to feel in your gifts while maybe having some responsibilities that don't allow you to fully realize them?
Yeah, you started by asking if somebody goes to the workshop, are they going to, gain, can't remember what it was, but it doesn't matter, because what I'm going to tell you is there's no absolutes in this. So there's no way that Margine and I would ever guarantee that if anybody comes to the workshop, they're going to gain this, that, or the other thing, other than what we're going to say for sure is they're going to come and find out what their gifts are and what their gifts aren't. Okay? Yeah. That's what they're going to come. They're going to come and they're going to find out the formula. They're going to get that formula. It's like the secret sauce to life when you get this formula and you understand what your gifts are, but also, what is meaningful to you and who benefits from what you do and what the vehicle is. And you'll be put through, exercises and processes to do that. So, there's no absolute of what anybody, moms or anyone else, is going to get from the workshop, other than I can guarantee you're not going to get anything unless you show up. And
right.
And the intention that, Margine's like me, prior to getting on stage, before we stand before people, Margine and I set very powerful intentions to be conduits of goodness, to be able to bring to whoever's in that room something that they're going to come away with that's going to make a difference in their lives. I mean, Margine, I think I speak for you, like myself, we're not interested in providing information. We are dedicated to transformation, so it's not just we're going to be there, we're going to give you information and you're going to have more information that you can go home and do nothing with. We are committed to transformation. That's why Margine has earned the right to be on stage and teach this because she's committed to the transformation of people. So what I can guarantee you is people who come to the event, okay, are going to have an opportunity. They're going to be presented with tools and transformational thoughts. What they do with it, I don't know, Margene, can you guarantee that they're going to do anything? We don't know. People
Nope.
don't have to do anything with anything. It's going to be up to them if they want to do anything with it.
It's true. And that is very true. I mean, and like Monique says, it's like for me, being able to teach this, one of my greatest pillars for my life, for who I am, is freedom. And so I'm constantly looking and seeking and absorbing that which creates freedom. Freedom from construct, freedom from like you're in this box and you have to only be in this box. And for me, this was one of those, oh, I'm breaking out of this box type of, situations. And like I said, when I found out the gifts I absolutely didn't have, because I was feeling like I was a bad person, because there are very specific, like Monique said, there's 24 gifts. So there are some, like when I went through it, I was like, there was big fat zeros for my assessment. 0, 0, 0. And I was like, oh, oh, thank goodness, but understanding that it's like, I wasn't a bad person because I didn't have evidence of those gifts. It just meant that I got to free up that energy and my thoughts around not having those gifts and not beating myself up for not having the gifts that I felt I had to actually live into. I have to have this thing in order to be a good person. I have to be this way in order to be a good person. And once I was released from, it's like, well, I don't have that gift. I don't have that gift. I don't have that gift. It's like, I don't have the gift of healing. I'm not going to rock into your massage school or studio and be like, hey, I'll give you a massage because I should be good at like giving massage, because it doesn't drive me. Right. And I'm really clear. I don't have that gift. It's like, I don't have it. And so it really freed up the thought process, the mental process, the game that goes on in our heads, because as we go through society and we have our influences, we have our circles, it's like, oh no, you should study this. You should study this. You should be, really applying to this and applying to that and doing this and being, there are a lot of things that I am strong in and skilled in. But like Monique said, what do you feel like when you're doing this? Like, I don't feel on purpose when I'm doing the things that I'm skilled at. But when I am in my gift, I am right there. The energy's there, the desire's there, the drive's there, and I can't help but feel good when I'm in my gifts. And I'm even more so like now really super aware, because I am in the process of it all the time. And for who I am, my mission is to touch, move, and inspire others to be in their purpose with power and passion. So this is one of the ways in which I get to express that, even though there is no one purpose that I've come to learn. It's like, this is part of how I can contribute and give back, is helping other people to maybe, if 1 or 2 or 10 can remove the shackles of, I have to be in this box in order to be successful. I'd rather teach people, break out of the box, be happy.
Right.
Feel good,
Yeah. And Sarah has put here, and it kind of goes in line with that. She says, how we perceive ourselves and maybe our gifts can be at odds with how others perceive us and our strengths. And how does that work as you search for your sacred gifts? And Sarah, that's a great question. And you get clarity. First of all, it's understanding the process. And first of all, of course, understanding what your gifts are and what they aren't. That really helps to change a lot of perceptions. That's one of the big things that happens, at the event, is a lot of perceptions and long-held thoughts and beliefs that maybe haven't been serving you get a chance to start to change. So, and it gives people courage. A lot of people will find courage and confidence to make decisions that overrides what other people have told them as they go through the process. We've had people that have quit their jobs on Monday. They come to the workshop Saturday, Sunday, and they've been maybe for a year kind of battling and looking at everybody else being the problem at their job. If only my boss did this, can't stand her. If only we got this, I wish we had more money. You know, they go through all this stuff. And then they come to the workshop and they realize they're the problem. They're in the wrong parking space, right? Like, it's not about changing everybody else. It's that they've been parked in the wrong parking space. And so now they get the courage and the confidence to be able to say, I'm done. You know, so we've had people quit their jobs on Monday. We've had people go back to jobs they loved doing. And one woman in particular, her husband kept saying to her, when are you going to stop doing that job? You know, you're always looking after that boss, and you know, and you're spending your life getting him coffee and organizing his life and shopping for his wife. And, you know, and when are you going to find your own thing? And so she quit a job that she loved, that made her feel on purpose, that absolutely aligns to one of the sacred gifts that we discuss in the program. And after the workshop, she went back after that job and she got it with a raise and went back to loving her life, right? Because somebody else made her believe that what she was doing wasn't enough. So how it works in the process of searching for your gifts, Sarah, is first you just gotta have the information first. When you have the information that you're gonna get, that's where it can start to transform things within you, right? You get the information, it leads to transformation. And then it leads to confidence and courage to be able to say, I'm going to frickin' open that bed and breakfast because now I understand.
Yep.
I've got the gift of hospitality. I've got this gift. I'll never open a bed and breakfast. I just want
Right.
don't confuse this with anything I would be saying. I don't have that gift of hospitality. But, you know, like it gives people the confidence, right, Margine?
Yes, absolutely. I've taken people from many different walks of life through this process. And, you know, just having them, you know, particularly because I have the gift of cultural integration. Thank you, Kathleen, for the note on that. We did mention on the call that it may be from 60 to 90 minutes. So to block out a full 90 minutes, we will start wrapping up here pretty soon. I'll open the floor to anybody that has questions still beyond what we've answered. You know, because I have the gift of cultural integration, you know, I've been able to take specific cultures through this process where their gifts will show up, but it's in direct conflict with how they're raised and their culture. So they'll start to have this confidence of, oh, that's why I have the desire, the drive to do these things. And now it makes so much sense of why I want to do that, or why I want to open, you know, a catering company, why I want to, you know, create artistic, you know, endeavors, why I want to do these things when it's in direct conflict with their culture, right? And so it really, for me, it's just like this process, it blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind, because working with people all over the world and in different cultures and seeing some of the boxes that culturally people are in, and then giving them that understanding, or taking them through the process so that they have a different understanding, they can go, oh, okay. And they start to find, they'll start to find their legs, and they'll start to find, you know, more courage and more confidence in the things that before they might have been timid and saying, oh, maybe it's just maybe it's not really something that I should be pursuing, but it gives them that oh, this is, and that awareness of oh, how do I feel when I'm in that process, and opening up that whole world of being able to accept feeling good while giving of themselves in their gifts. So it fascinates me, and it's phenomenal. And I absolutely just, like, I love it. And I love seeing it when people go, oh my gosh. Right. And then the ones that they absolutely know they don't have, especially when we're in the live 2-day, and the ones they don't have, they're like, oh, thank God. Now I know. Right.
However, yeah. And it could be their husband or their kids. gift,
Yes,
right? Yeah. So that's what's
totally.
so fabulous about it.
Yeah.
I've had people say to me, they go through the program and they're like, oh, like I just want to hear about my gifts. I think I'll just do it on my own in the digital program because I just want to focus on my gifts. Well, you could end up missing a piece of information that will change everything with a coworker or with your
Yes.
teenage kid or with your parent. I mean, when I applied this teaching in my own life to my mom who was in her late 80s, and I came to understand that I was watching her wither away, this powerful, amazing woman wither away, because we as her kids thought we were doing a favor by stripping her of the very thing that energized her and made her feel on purpose, which was her gift of hospitality. Oh, Mom, you don't need to have us over at your little apartment in the seniors' home. You come to our house. Mom, you don't need to help in the kitchen. She had a gift of service. She loved to work. She was always the first one up to do the dishes after a meal, right? She had the gift of service. And it was like, no, Mom, you go sit down. You just relax. You've done it your whole life. Let me do it. I didn't even like doing it. And I'm saying this to her because I think that's what a good daughter is supposed to do. And watching my mom get smaller in her energy, in everything about her, get smaller and smaller until it was like, oh, hello, my mother has a gift of hospitality. My mother has a gift of service. Put her to work. Mom, can you come the night before Christmas dinner? Please, will you make the gravy? Like just totally putting her back in her element, going grocery shopping, making sure she's always got cookies and things she wanted in her seniors' apartments in case somebody dropped by. It was important to her that if somebody dropped by, she had cookies and could play cards with them, right? So then watching her flourish and bloom, and when she died at 93, she had gotten to spend her last few years, instead of us robbing her of what were her gifts, we didn't even know we were doing it. We thought we were just doing the good daughter thing, right? No, Mom, you don't have to do anything. And instead re-empowering her with that. So when you're learning about gifts you don't have, oh my gosh, you can change people's lives because you will recognize those very gifts you don't have in other people. And then you've got the language and you've got the wherewithal and the understanding of the sacredness of it to be able to say to somebody, Margene, I don't know how you do what you do, but it is amazing. And I just want to acknowledge that. And I know that I couldn't do that. And what they will say to you typically is, oh, they're not comfortable with it, right? They're like, oh, it's because my mother was like that. My mother was Ukrainian, so all Ukrainian people do that. It's challenging for people to really receive, when we're speaking about their gifts, because we're talking about their soul, right? We're talking about people's souls.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll give it back to you because I know there's lots of questions.
Yeah, I will open it up because Kathleen did bring a good point. We're at 4:08 and we want to wrap up here in the next 15 minutes so that everybody has a chance to go to the website and register if you're ready to jump in. And and we do have one more question from MJ. So if anyone does have a question, go ahead, and if you have the capability, pop a message into the message chat with everybody, and just say, I have a question. Dr. Teresa says, when are we going to Italy?
I'm going to come with this.
Next year.
All of that information is on Monique's website, yoursacredgifts.com. So you can find out that information there. MJ, I love this question that you asked. I love this question. And the question is, it seems that this should be a great course to bring to the high school students so that they can recognize their gifts early in life to live happier, fulfilling life choices. Yeah. And Monique, I know that you have you have some insight in that because you did take your own daughter Jen through the process when she was very young. And I have a young daughter as well. My Jasmine is 13, and she kind of schooled me last year in the summer when we were at her auntie's house, and and she was like, "Oh, Auntie, can I organize your pantry? It's driving me crazy," and my sister was like, "Yeah, sure, go for it, girl." And I said, Jasmine, I said, it's really interesting how you want to organize your auntie's pantry, but you can't organize your suitcase. And she didn't even miss a beat. And she turned around and she looked me straight in the eye and she said, because Mom, my sacred gifts are for others, not for myself. And I went, Oh, okay. And she goes, see, I do listen to you.
That's awesome.
But yes, I would agree that in the high schools, Monique, do you want to add on to that?
Sure. So a couple of things. I often get asked about kids, kids need to know their gifts. We should empower kids with their gifts. So what I want to say to that is, if we empower children with understanding what their gifts are and we get them highly motivated and the parents are not on board, it is a disaster, and I've seen it. So it's really important for children to understand the concept that they have within them gifts, and how to know how to recognize how they feel is important, okay, for kids to understand that. It's important for parents to understand sacred gifts, because then they can foster the gifts in their children and encourage them when their kids want to do something that is completely out of alignment with anything they've done. They can't even understand it. It'll help them understand their teenager. College age, yes, it's very powerful. High school, again, when we start naming gifts to things that they've had no experiences to, right? So there are, with my daughter, she was like one of the first people I trialed it on. She was about 13 or 14 years old. And so what happened for her, she came out of it, she said, she did the assessment, she said, so don't I just feel like a total loser, because she had a whole bunch of zeros and she had only three gifts that showed up that had any score on it at all. And so her immediate thought was, oh, don't I feel like a loser? But then I explained to her, and yet we didn't have a lot of evidence at 13 of,
Right.
and she didn't even understand some of the questions. Mm-hmm. So high school, a mature student, like even in my workshops, I'll get asked, can I bring my kids? It's like, it's not, first of all, it's not created for kids. The workshop isn't. A highly mature high school student, yes. A grade 11, 12 student who's really mature. You know how some of them are. They're like old souls and they've got maturity more than their parents anyway. Yes, but really the power is in the parent understanding it, so that, because the kids already know, I'm telling you guys, your teenagers know what they want to do. It's their mind frick and your mind frick that talks them out of it. Right? They want to do it. So if your kid is telling you, I want to go to the moon, and you're willing to go, what do we do first? How do we help you go to the moon? As opposed to, you can't go to the moon, right? All of that. Or I just want to do art. I love doing art. Annette's on this call, and she's got a daughter who's artistic, and she's a young girl, and the stuff she produces is phenomenal. And Annette just encourages her and fosters her and buys the supplies she needs and puts her stuff up on Facebook and celebrates her because she has that understanding of gifts, right? I didn't do that with my kids. I didn't have this understanding with my kids. I was just like, yeah, whatever.
Right. That's a very honest statement right there.
Very honest.
Monique just cuts right through it. She just cuts right there. So I'm going to take one more. We're going to do this one last question, and then we're going to move into letting you all know how you can get registered for the live event and take care of that for those of you who are interested. But Monique, this question is, how may I actualize or utilize this knowledge or understanding in my personal and professional life?
Yeah, well, that's the benefit of what you're going to get when you go to the workshop. So first, you've got to know what your gifts are. Then you've got to identify how you want to use your gifts in a way that's meaningful to you, who it is that's going to benefit from what it is you're doing, what the right vehicle is for you to be able to do that. And then also being able to look at our shortcomings as a human being, right? So knowing that you may figure out what your gifts are at the workshop and know exactly what you want to do, but you're in a relationship that you sucking the life out of you, and you don't even want to be married to this person anymore, and nothing is going to work in your life till you sort that piece out. So it's really about getting the information, allowing it to work its transformation in you when you're at the event, and then how you're going to take that back to your personal life and your work life is going to be evident. It will be evident. And we even have a process at the end of the 2-day. Marjean's going to take you in a process that's going to be about, okay, you got this stuff, now what do you want to do with it, right? Like, she's going to guide you to that. So it's going to be applicable to your workplace or to your personal life, your family, your church community, whatever, right? So she's going to guide you through all that.
Yeah, it really is. And it is a full, it is a full program. So for those of you, if you've never been to a program before, it's like we go from point 0 to 100, over that 2-day period of time. Monique's been brilliant in how she's designed this course and the processes within it, and just everything that you get to experience in that 2 days. And again, Kathleen, thank you so much for really pushing and driving to bring this to Florida. And we know that for many people, this is going to be a big opportunity to dive into more of who you are, to find out how to bring more joy, more happiness, more freedom into your lives. So thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Monique, for your time, for your wisdom, for your humor, for all that you bring to the table with discovering your sacred gifts. And really, this is such a hugely beneficial opportunity. And one of the reasons, like Monique just said, it's like you're going to be able to start seeing around you, like the gifts that are evident in other people. Right. And there may be some releasing of judgment for yourself, first of all, and the releasing of judgment around others. I had somebody come through years ago when I was just doing my certification, and he finally got the understanding that he had the gift of service and that his mom and his sister didn't. And he couldn't understand that every time he showed up at his mom's, like he was always the one cleaning up and taking care of the dishes and taking care of making sure that everything was all in order before he left. And he couldn't understand why his mom and his sister were doing nothing. Like they weren't doing anything. And he finally got the distinction that, oh, he had the gift of service. He goes, oh, now I can be okay with, like, they don't have the gift of service. So they weren't driven to like clean up and do all of the things that made him feel joyful. But when he was in his own family, he's like, well, they're just not helping out, but then he got, oh, that's not their gift. And he was able to see the gifts that that were present for them in their lives. And he said, it brought me so much peace to know that, because now I don't have to judge them for the gifts that they don't actually have. So it really is, it's that opportunity to give yourself some freedom, to give other people some freedom, to, encourage others and nurture others, and allow the gifts to just kind of be there and show up and cultivate them and grow them. And I know that's one of the questions that people often have. It's like, but the difference between, before we go, the difference between a skill or talent and a gift. Because I think that's a really important piece to know before we do actually wrap up, Monique.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say that they go to your event and find out.
Awesome.
So Margine, I'm just looking at the questions and the comments here. So how do they register for the event? I want to put it in.
Okay, so how you register for the event, you can go to www.threesourceenterprises.com/events. That's where you'll have the links to go to the page that has all of the information. The date is October 6th and 7th in Port Orange, Florida, which is very near to, Kathleen has said, is very near to Daytona Beach, which I'm very excited because I've never been there before. So I have the opportunity to go to Port Orange. One of my love of going in. I know it's not another country, but it's another culture. It's definitely another culture for me. Yep.
And I will, that's the registration, and I'll be adding with RJ where people can stay or what they need, or if they have questions. You can always also add my email or phone number. I'll add it in here in a second if anyone has any additional questions. But the way to sign up is through that registration that Monique just put up.
Okay, and just check, Margine, that I've put that in correctly, the threesourceenterprises.com/event. Is that, if I spelled that all correct?
It's events. There's an S on the end of it.
Okay, so more that. All right, and there's 2 E's in the middle, Margine. It's three source with an E on the end.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And for
Okay,
some of you, if you don't want to don't want to actually go to the website, you can call Kathleen or get a hold of Kathleen. I know a lot of you have come through Kathleen. Here's her phone number. It's listed right there in the chat window, 561-252-0511. If you have any other questions about hotels in the area or any other information that you need, she can help you get registered as well. I know you know, sometimes people, you don't like to like do the online forms, and we totally understand that, but make sure that you go and you register so that we know everything that we need to know prior to the event. We're really looking forward to being there. I'm really super excited to be able to deliver this information and give you the information and take you through the process, so that, like Monique said, it is a discovery process. That's why it's called Discovering Your Sacred Gifts, because after you discover them, you're going to continue to discover more and more and more. It's like, I've just, you know, I've been so fortunate that I just can continue to expand and continue to grow within my gifts. Kathleen, thank you so much. We'll also, for those of you who are on the email list, I'll send off an email to you with the links that you can go straight into the PayPal. We have a VIP registration that we'll take care of on the 2 days. That includes a lunch. There's a VIP registration, so you're more than welcome to join either on the standard registration or the VIP registration, whichever works for you. So we look forward to it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for being with us. I'm going to unmute everybody so that everybody can say hello, say goodbye. It kind of gets like, hi Jennifer, hi Dr. Teresa, MJ, thank you for being here. Hey Lauren, Barb. I know it all sounds like this craziness.
Hi everybody. Thank you, Margine. Thank you, Monique. Thank you, Kathleen.
Yes.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks, you guys. Loved it.
Been wonderful.
And then we will provide the link as well. Once it's converted, I'll provide the link so that you can hear the audio and playback, and you can also send it off to whoever you want that may not have been able to make the call with us.
Oh, Barbara. Yay, Barbara in New York.
Barbara and Shiny. Thank you all so very, very much. We appreciate you, and we so look forward to helping you discover your sacred gifts.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.